Up, guys? Welcome to the new episode of the Punts and Pints podcast. My name is Paul Punts, and with me I have the amazing Eggnoc Patrick. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, guys, in this episode, as last one, Simon is not here. He's a busy man, so I decided to switch guests, invite someone else from the poker world for every episode. And Eggnog was kind enough to spare an hour of his time. Maybe, Patrick, you can introduce yourself a little bit for the people that don't know you or have not heard about you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my name's Patrick, or Eggnoc, I suppose. What would you like to know? Anything specific, or just?
Maybe just a little bit about yourself. Like personally, I think like people we will talk about the poker stuff in the next few minutes. But
Mhm.
where are you from? How old are you? How is your life?
How have I come to be? Uh, I'm 32, from the UK, in Colchester, in London. Um, I suppose people know me a bit more for being a bit of a crazy, ranting, anti-Nick guy. Do a bit of mixed YouTube content and some Twitch streaming.
Yeah. So, guys, you can see I have added Eggdog's credentials and his links in the middle of this podcast. So feel free to check him out. Leave a like, subscribe to the channels, of course. So, the podcast is called Punts and Pints, and we're always starting out with the beer tasting. And I don't know if you have seen the prior episodes, but we usually open a can of beer, have a sip, and then compare our beers to a starting hand. So let me go first, and then you can join after. So I do have another Swedish beer because I have been shopping like Scandinavian stuff lately. The name is Proops Blå from Sweden. It's a light lager. I think like the Swedes do have all the IPA stuff and like the microbrewery stuff going, but Bruksblad is I think like one of their signature beers in Sweden. It's a light lager. So cheers to you, Patrick.
Cheers.
Um, like I have to say, I'm not a big lager drinker. I usually prefer the English ales, which is like funnily people from England always give me shit about it because they say, "How can you drink that stuff?" But I prefer the ales, Scottish
I'm
ales.
with you as well.
But yeah, it's a good one. It's like light, sweet taste. If I would have to compare it to a starting hand, it's definitely not like a premium holding, but it's a solid one. So I think I'll go with something like the Jack 10 of spades. Let me do the Jack 10 of spades.
That's that. That's, I don't obviously don't know that, but that's my absolute favorite hand in the game with spades. Has
So
to be
that's
spades.
so that's actually disrespectful, I guess.
There you go. It is what it is.
It is what it is. So yeah, feel free
Probably better, man.
to.
I ended up getting San Miguel. Which I actually don't know where it origins from. I think it's Spanish. I could be wrong. It's okay. I used to drink these a lot. With slightly younger days going out, but more recently, I'm with you. I prefer the ales and everything as well, rather than just sort of lagers and beers and so on. But if I was going to compare this to a hands, I'd probably compare it to aces. It starts off pretty well, but then as the night goes on, the more of these you drink, the street by street, night by night, hour by hour, just gets progressively worse.
All right. That's like a nice comparison. I had in the prior episodes we had some really weird stuff where you had like a beer that tastes weird in the beginning, but then progressively with every sips gets better. Yeah, like this is the type of end where you're playing a session for 4 hours and you're running poorly, and then at some point something like the 9-6 suited in the hijack looks like really promising. You must know the feeling.
It's a dangerous part of the session to find yourself in, I think.
It is. It is. It definitely is. All right, so now that we have our beers, I think it's like interesting for the viewers, the listeners, to learn a bit about like your poker background. So maybe we can start with your background story. How did you get into poker?
Yeah, sure. I'm probably a bit of a weird one in terms of the story. Basically, so I'm 32, right? For probably since maybe 18, 19 years old, playing on the old full tilt back in the day. Like, not monetary value, but just big loser in the game for all the baby stakes, like playing all the 1 cent, 2 cent, and 5 cent, 10 cent regular tables and some, like, well, I think it was rush poker, awful player, like super entitled fish, aggro fish and nit fish combination, weird for a long time. And then it was only a couple of years ago, it's probably about 4 years ago, give or take, something like that. I found a couple of new people in the game from playing live, who's now my best friend now, Tom Runicles. And we basically went over some hand histories. We looked at some solvers and stuff together. And we had a kind of conversation, which basically kind of, for better or for worse, kind of showed me how terrible I truly was and how every single thought process in this game I thought was correct wasn't
Yeah.
very correct. Whether it was theory based or exploit based, no matter what it was all pretty wrong. So from then, I just found a real love for the game in a way that I wanted to kind of just study as hard as possible and try and figure out what I can do to improve and just put tons and tons of work in. So over the last 3 or 4 years, it's just
Okay.
been piled in solvers and really put a lot of work into my game and thoroughly enjoying it. Both the results and also the just feeling like I can enjoy and play the game rather than just be miserable and frustrated 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably how I would say it.
That's pretty interesting. Like everyone I talk to, everyone has started in the full tilt days. So when I started playing poker, it was like in 2006, and I was also playing like on Party, on Stars, on Full Tilt, and everyone was really bad. Like I wish I could like get my poker tracker history from back then back, because I
Mm-hmm.
had it on another PC, so I don't have access to it anymore. But it would be so funny to look at like the hands you played in 2008, where like no one really knew what they were doing, right? We had no solvers, we had like not really coaching sites. I think Card Runners was starting out back
Mm-hmm.
then when I started to play, but basically everyone just like posting on 2+2, and that was it. And that was like, if you were active on 2+2, you were already like one of the crushers.
You three bet you didn't have queens or kings. Whoa! You bet the turn you didn't have it. Whoa! You know, back in those days, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah. So when you started out playing, like what was the thing about poker that made you fall in love with the game? Do you have like a specific thing?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say there's a specific thing. I fell into it originally. I think I was about 16. This is making me feel really old now. I'm only 32, but this making me feel really old. But I played a fun £5 game with my brother and some of his friends and some of our family, and just kind of did a home game style thing. And I don't know, like I've always been competitive, but like that game was just the ability to like bluff people and show people bluffs. Literally, and it's just like putting people under pressure because everyone was kind of tight and slow, and everyone's just kind of having fun. And then I come in there, I've got no clue how to play the game, but I'm like, wait, I can make you fold and I can do this. And I was like, I don't know. It felt like a kind of game which was like you could really like you could kind of crush on people and put pressure on people and
Mm,
stuff, and it was
mm,
really nice and predatory and really
yeah.
fun. So just fell in love with it straight off the bat.
Uh, I think it was the same for me. Like I used to play chess as a kid a lot, and the transition to poker was, I think, exactly this. Like you didn't have all the information, so you could like pretend and put people in spots where they just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like different to chess because all the information is like available to you right on the chessboard. And in poker
Yeah.
it's different. So I think that was also the case. Like, okay, I can outthink you and like crush you in the mind. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you started out playing, did you start out with goals, or was it just like, I'm gonna
No.
play for fun?
I am extremely egotistical and competitive. So like for me, it was just about like I have weird stories. Like I like when I first started playing, like there was no well, the end goal was like, yeah, let's make loads of money and be a millionaire. And I kind of like crashed and burned really early, and it kind of like helped me a little bit. But like I didn't have a specific goal, but I just for the several years I was pretty awful at it. I had one or two random luck sprees, and like where that kind of like I've accidentally built a roll up, over like a couple of weeks. When you just kind of like, no matter what you do, like some people, you just get a run of cards or your bluffs or whatever you do, everything will work, right? So
Yeah.
once or twice, like for me, like my goals were to try and become a professional poker player, like a full-time player, and all this.
Hmm.
And over a decade, it was just not attainable. Oh no, I was working through most of it, right? But like most of it just wasn't attainable because I was so terrible. But like I've had a couple of sprees where it's like you run it up pretty well, and then you start thinking, oh, maybe I'm really good. All of a sudden, I can not, I'll quit work for a bit and give it a go and do all this and stuff. And it's like, no, it's always been a goal to try and be a full-time professional, and I'm still breaking into that mold,
Hmm.
into full-time rather than just semi-pro. But for a long, long time, it's always the goal to try and be full-time. But I've
Hmm.
been crushed and put back into reality many, many times. So
Yeah.
that goal is still there, but we're getting closer to it. So
Yeah. Did you
getting there.
start out with tournaments or did you start with sit and goes
No, no, no.
or?
I'm not. I'm a terrible tournament player. I think I'll always will be too aggressive, too fast paced. Don't really appreciate like ICM and all this stuff and all that jargon. It's more a case of just like hand by hand, just much better like 100 to 200 big blind cash player. Even
Yeah.
when I was terrible, I was better at that than tournaments.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that'll be like, I have 100 big blinds start the hand. I'm just trying to go all in as quickly as possible. It just wasn't good for me. I got bored and just silly with it. At least with
Yeah.
cash, I felt like, oh, you've dusted $4 there
Yeah.
rather than 5K tournament chips or something.
Yeah. I think it's the same for me. Like I don't really have the patience for tournaments. Like and I'm probably also not really good at ICM and everything, but it feels like tournaments are boring in the beginning and then pure gambling in the end.
Yeah, I just hate the mentality. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like tournament poker is that's a whole different skill set. Like the variables are incredible with that, but just for me, it's just like as you say, right? It's just like when you've got short stacks, there's obviously loads of clear spots and strategies to it, but just being handcuffed in a way where it's like a lot of situations, especially when you're like sub 15 and stuff, it's like inevitably a lot of spots is just going to be, do I win or lose this flip? And you put like 5, 6, 7 hours into something, and then like 50-40, 60-40, do I win, do I lose? I hate those kind of spots, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of real variance in tournaments.
Yeah.
It's not really for me as much.
Yeah. And it's like not like you cannot I feel like you cannot really put pressure on people in tournaments because so much is just done pre-flop. Like they're you're not playing turns and rivers a lot. So that's like the
Yeah, I
point that
mean,
I hate about tournaments.
yeah, I mean, I can't talk through experience, but at least with the early and mid stages of the game, I think like a lot of players and recreational players really want to play the game a bit, and then as you say, when you get towards the bubble and you start towards the min cashes and towards the FT, you can start applying more pressure, but it's still a case of like there's only so much you can do, right, with certain stacks, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, not that I can talk from any experience, but just yeah,
Yeah.
it's not my style of game.
Yeah. It's good. I want to keep talking to cash game players because I have way more respect to for them than the tourney pros. So, when did you decide that like the content side of things, so you're also like streaming, you're pushing out YouTube content. When did you decide to give that a go alongside poker?
That's a great question, actually. I've been slacking, unfortunately, like the last few months. But a little bit. I've been slacking on both formats, but Twitch here and there. But definitely on YouTube, I've been slacking. So sorry about that for anybody. But I don't know. I can't remember the exact date. It's like a year and a half ago or something, something like that. I think it's because for me, I turned into a cave dweller where I was like, oh my god, I'm in GTA Wizard, I'm in Empire Solver, I'm just
Hmm.
chugging out souls and info and going through histories with my friends, just crushing the amount of like all day every day. Just I found a love for
Hmm.
it, a real love for it. I still do, but I think it was at a point where I was like, I was enjoying it, and I was like, oh, I've learned this. I want to show someone, not to show off, but be like, hey, look, you can do this, and this
Hmm.
is quite cool. And have you tried this? And started a channel, had a few people interested in in it, and the Discord, and then people asking about hand histories and discussing, and then doing people reviews and things. I loved that, and it was quite fun to kind of be like, you can try this, and
Hmm.
I lost doing this all the time, but then I learned you can do this, and it was like a passion slash just enjoyment for discussing it with other people and
Yeah.
sort of exploring content and sharing it with other people. So I really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah. So if you would give it like a percentage, your poker and then your content creation side of things, so you're more like 70% poker player, 30% content creator.
It was probably closer to that before. At the moment, it's probably closer to 90-10. Like
Yeah.
I do coaching with some people and I do a lot of work and things. I do work outside and I do a lot of live play at the moment. And
Hmm.
I don't study as much as I did before because I just don't have the time. And also
Hmm.
doing a lot, just the amount of time I do, it's more for me or for the people I work with rather than like content creating. I could
Yeah.
absolutely chug more YouTube content out, but I haven't
Yeah.
been as motivated recently compared to everything else I've been doing.
So if you like you would stop creating streams and videos on YouTube, would you say you would still continue playing poker?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I'll ever stop doing either. I mean, I'm definitely going to be doing more Twitch again soon. But like the YouTube, I'll probably chug out here and there. It's probably sounding quite entitled, but there were certain parts of it that I feel I was giving away because I know I'm doing a bit more work with people now, paid work and stuff like this. A lot of the content I'm giving away is quite valuable for free,
Hmm.
and a lot of it's quite big myself up. But I mean, like a lot of the content is like really strong quality work for free where you can just pick it up and take it. And it's a bit like when a few people I know were talking to me about it and just saying, look, blah, 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 blah. It's like, I'm probably going to do more reviews, might do some play and explains and then hit in bits and bobs here and there. But in terms of like, I do a lot of my content used to be more play and explains and then it shifted into a lot of either reviews with a lot of talking or with kind of like cheat sheets in a way, like bullet point format work. Like
Hmm.
the last one I did with a mental game and going through a lot of bits and bobs. I feel like a lot of stuff like that is too valuable to just be thrown out for free like that, rather than little
Okay.
10, 15-minute videos for fun and stuff. They end up being like hour and 45 minutes of just like, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. And, and
Yeah.
it's quite interesting and valuable, but
So if
just
people
being
want to
careful with that.
if people want to contact you because they want to do like a coaching session or a session review with you, they should just hit you up on Discord, or how do
Yeah,
they reach you?
Usually like Discord's basically the easiest. A few people have emailed me, but it's mainly Discord. It's just nice and easy, I
Okay.
guess. But
Okay. I've
yeah,
heard it. I'm gonna link your Discord below this episode
thank you. I
after.
appreciate it.
um like now I assume you have like the coaching side of things, but also you're playing for yourself. Do you have
Yes.
like right now a certain goal that you want to hit in 2024?
It's an interesting question to answer for me because I've got several goals. Because at the moment I suppose you could class it as several different types of work. In terms of poker though, online, I've recently started a new challenge that I want to actually put more time into. So that's one. So I want to try and do a minimum of say like 5 to 10 hours a week on that and try and pump that volume out. And then the rest of it is in terms of live. I've got specific like win rate numbers and things like that. But it's just trying to get a balance. I think my main goal is just trying to keep enjoying the game rather than seeing it as work in a way, and then just saying,
Hmm.
look, I've got a lot of really good opportunities for myself, both in and outside of poker.
Hmm.
So just trying to juggle them. Need to lose a bunch of weight. Need to get fit and healthy again, and get back
Hmm.
into the
Hmm.
kind of full swing. That's probably my main goal.
That's a nice one. Like it's always nice when you also like link your poker goals to like your overall life goals. So
Mhm.
like getting, I don't know, getting in shape or getting your mindset fixed, etc. doesn't like necessarily just help you for poker, but it just improves your overall
It's just lifestyle,
quality
man.
of life. Yeah.
I've certainly fallen out with a lot of my friends and spent a lot of time investment towards poker, and could do
Hmm.
with getting back some of that. So definitely.
Hmm. Hmm. So speaking of your life game, so you said you live close to London, or is it like a suburb of London? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not. It's basically about an hour, just over an hour's drive, give or take, towards London.
Hmm.
So just outside. But
So
we're now technically a city, but we're bang on right next door to London. So
okay, okay. I love it. Like still to this day, I think London is the my favorite place in the world. I love the city. I usually like try to get to London at least a couple of times a year. And speaking of live games, I usually go to the casino as well. But you're probably playing higher than me. But what are the casinos you? go
Well,
to
I
online?
don't play. I don't play a lot. So that's the thing. I don't play a lot of live in terms of. I play a lot of live, but I don't play a lot of live in terms of like casinos and public games. It's more like home games and private game style things.
Oh,
So
okay.
like, yeah, a lot of those. If I was going to play, I mean, I could. I mean, I've never played. For example, I've never played for better or worse. I never played a 5-10 or above in a normal game.
Mm-hmm.
But the regular games I play are either 1-1, 1-2, or 2-5, but they
Mm-hmm.
usually run between 1 and 3 straddles, essentially every hand. So they may as
Mm-hmm.
well be 2-5 and 5-10 close enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
So
yeah, I mean,
your
yeah,
private
go on.
games are like with other British poker players, or what
Yeah,
are those games? Yeah.
basically, yeah, yeah, different communities. Yeah, I'm very lucky that I've got backing to play a lot of live games.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of work. I do a lot of games, and more probably not as much as I should be doing, but they're doing a lot of super late nights and mixing that with stuff in the day, and then going and working outside and stuff. It's very like, a lot of a lot of time gets the weeks disappear basically so very quickly.
That's pretty cool. Like, thinking about maybe you can say a little bit about your experience and the differences between like online games and live games, and then
Mhm.
also how you study for each, if that differs.
I mean, if I want, I'll tell you what. If I wanted to study for online, from just basic experience, like 90% of like the solver work is just it's not irrelevant, but it's not super useful. There's a foundation part of it. I'll say like 20% of it. If you study the absolute level of everything, like 20% of that could be just applied to any person you fight against in the entire world in this
Mm-hmm.
game. 80% of it may not be optimal against a lot of other certain player types
Mm-hmm.
and the majority of the game. If I wanted to study for live, I would go to the zoo or I'd study David Attenborough videos
Yeah.
on how animals work and they live in their habitats because that's probably closer to live poker. Online poker is just loads of nits flying around waiting for the nuts and trying to cold deck each other and get leaderboard or rake back returns, and it's like. But it's there are plenty of fish around and wait and fishy games, but you have to look for them. So on my
Yeah. I think like
with the online and so on. Yeah,
yeah.
go on,
I
you go
think
first.
you are the same. Like you study with GTO Wizards as well. Still,
Hmm.
like you do solver work. But I also have like I think the Pareto principle, if you have heard about that, where like
I have not.
80%, it's like I think it comes from psychology, I'm not sure, but like 80% of the results are done in like 20% of your time working on it. So I think that's like basically the thing that is completely true of studying solvers, that you have like, as you said, the foundation of things, and you have to know like in theory you wanna be doing this mostly, and then all these, okay, I have four different bet sizes on this turn card, like all of that stuff is super like it's too much.
The thing to do, like this is the thing, like a lot of people I work with and so on. It's just a case of like basically like to make this really quick. It's just the way to see it is like you have to identify and profile the players, no matter what your skill set or work
Hmm.
like study level. It doesn't matter to some extent. It's just a case of identifying and understanding who the types of players are in front of you, and then like a bunch of work behind you gives you foundation on like good sizes and what kind of things we can do and
Hmm.
all textures, and it doesn't get you into as much trouble and it doesn't like kind of sort of punish you for certain things as much. But at the end of the day, it's as you say, it's just a case of like if I only three bet you with say aces and kings, and you're like, right, I'm gonna have some four bet bluffs, I'm gonna do this, but there's no. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's no point because the solver, if you run the solver right, like the solves are based on information that you input to them. So, for example, like GTO Wizards, as amazing as it is, but without the AI, just the general formats, you're playing against an absolute opponent. So it's like the AI, or if you run things through like PySolver or something, and you change you adjust all the the frequencies and you adjust the hands that people might play and things like this. If you say so, if someone's playing 90% of hands and
Yeah.
not folding to a three bet like 80% of the time, then that person's not going to have the same range. The strategy all changes. So that's what's so frustrating and beautiful about this game is there's no like you don't go study the answer and it goes, yeah, next time you should call that. Then you call them, but you realize they're not bluffing and ever. So your call becomes terrible. So then what do? Do you know what I mean? It's like you
Yeah.
kind of have to
Yeah.
half of the side which is strategic, the other half that is just you dumb it down to the level of the person you're in front
Yeah.
of, sorry, and you just what are they doing and I'll counter that. That usually makes a lot more money in most games.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. Like maybe you don't want to spill your secrets, but can you give us like a sneak peek on your way of studying then? Like a specific, like do you do hand histories, or do you do player pool analysis?
I mean, I don't. I've heard a lot of things about things like how the pools overall play with like data and their overall tendencies to like overfold and do things. I understand that, but I don't. I haven't done anything like that specifically. For me, honestly, because I was so terrible. Like, I obviously because it's me, I ended up doing. I always start with the most difficult thing that I have no idea what I'm doing, and I started on like the complex stuff on Wizard,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like trying to figure things. You're talking to someone who can't beat NL2 regular tables, playing one table at a time with 10 years experience, trying to figure out what solver's 5-bet bluffing with. And I'm like, oh, I can 4-bet this and 5-bet shove this as a bluff. And it's like, I can't even beat, I can't even beat a guy who probably just has kings when he 3-bets. Do you know what I mean? No, there's no secret. There's no secrets with how you study. It's trying to like the thing is if you work by yourself, right? This is what's tough. If you work by yourself, the best thing you can do is to say to yourself, "Am I winning? Am I losing? Am I breaking even?"
Mm-hmm.
And just say like, record your sessions and look back at them, and then just say like, so all you can do is work on common sense. That looks like a bad size. It looks like a good size, but you don't know, do you? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a case of like you can then input that into a solver, or you can do work with someone and discuss thought processes, and that's generally pretty good. But like overall, honestly, it's just a case of like again just profiling and exploiting certain player types. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the main thing, I think.
Okay,
If I'm
interesting.
honest.
Yeah. So I mentioned it in the last, not in this episode, but in I do have a series with like I kind of have a coach right now. I started playing NL 100, so I moved up from NL 50 to NL 100. And so far I haven't streamed too much on NL 100, but I've been working with Crane Plays Poker. I don't know if you know him, Damian Johnson.
Don't
He's
know.
from
I don't know a lot of
Wales.
the world. I'm a bit of a hermit, so I don't know a lot of the
Okay,
units.
that's fine. And like the first thing we were discussing was my way of studying, and it was a bit eye-opening, but one thing I have already been doing for like quite a while, he really liked, and that was used to, or I still do, I watch like players that are better than me, but I watch them on mute. So I don't really know what they're saying. I don't get like the instant feedback loop. So I
Mm-hmm.
just watch what they're doing, and then I ask myself like, okay, if would I have done the same? If so, why? And if my play differs from theirs, why? Like
Yeah.
always questioning why. And then I think that's like that has been really beneficial for me. But what Crane told me I should be doing way more is like really looking at not the big pots, but like at pots between even 6 big blinds to 20 big blinds, and then like stuff you do automatically where
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you see bets and then barrel the turn and they fold, right? The pot is super small, but still look at these spots and like really explain to yourself, okay, why did you bet this board, why did you bet this turn, and not really
Mm-hmm.
look at the, I don't know, I run 3 barrels with ace king on ace high boards and run into a set. Like that's not really the important stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what the main one of the two main people I've worked with. One plays a lot live and one plays a lot online, and there's a
Mhm.
few other people I work with here and there. But I can just say, right? Are you playing on GG like Russian Cash?
Yeah, mainly. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy one of the main guys I've worked with over the last year and a half. We've got him from NL10 to NL200,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the moment at the time, a lot of the work he plays on at the moment is 100 and 200 on
Mm-hmm.
Russian Cash, and I can just tell you from like 20, 30 different like video review sessions and stuff at those stakes, especially like NL100 and NL50, is I can't say this person's doing this and whatever, but like
Yeah.
I can still promise you that like we always do this, right? We always do it in a format where there's different ways of coaching, right? There's no right and wrong. There's no like good and bad. It's just different
Mm-hmm.
approaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we always do a lot of like, I would start a lot of the work with, we would discuss, as you said, we don't watch other people. We just go through hand histories together through the solvers and then also talk about exploit. But we always say, right, we should be doing X, Y, and Z as a foundation on this board and blah, 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 blah. But then we also say to ourselves, do we know the player? Do we have notes? Do we have, it sounds really basic, but it's because these people, right? Most of these regs on GG specifically are so biased towards the leaderboard and the rake back returns because the rake is so high and the general quality of play is quite soft and weak, but it's so tight and there's not a lot of money, there's not a lot of dead money, there's not a lot of money being given away. The pool plays very well pre-flop and then very progressively worse as the streak by streak goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And their flop and turn bluffing ranges are wildly over aggressive with a lot of the regs, and then their river ranges become size based, where they have a lot of like their different sizings. Like if they don't go all in, versus whether they go all in, and a lot of their triple barrel lines in certain spots are just so under bluffed. That's very subjective. There's not like a certain spot there, but I'm just saying it. Like you kind of have to play. I would still think playing extremely exploitative and note taking on each of the regs because they're so tight and so. It's like a paradox because like you can't half the time you say, oh, these guys are never bluffing this spot, I've got to fold, but then if you watch all your sessions back, you're just folding every single hand. But you find that their flop betting and turn betting frequencies are just so high, like they just don't balance their checks. This is the difference, right, between like an absolute opponent and someone at like NL25 to NL200. I don't think there's that much difference because they're all doing the same problems. They're all just going, right, I 3-bet because I know I can 3-bet. I'm betting the flop because I know people fold a lot. Right, I've got a gut shot. I can bet I can bet 100% of the time, so I've got a gut shot. Bet 100 of the time, I only got queen high, I've definitely got to bet the turn. I've got 6 high, I've got to bet the turn, blah, blah, blah. And really this like sort of 40, 50%, 60% turn barrel rate becomes like 90%, 100%. And then when they get to the river, these jams, like the range that they get to the river with, certain players just don't have the value. And then certain players just don't have the bluffs. So we always say to ourselves, this is a really easy bluff catch. Don't mind you calling this one. We call, and they just have it a lot. And it's like, we just find that these frequencies, I don't want to bore the podcast here, but I'm just saying, for you, I'm just saying, the massive part of like the solver stuff, like the triple barrels and learning how to like, I think honestly, just learning to like over soft play hands and like not over trap, but just loud, like people in those pools, right? They go like, haha, I'm bluffing, I'm going to keep bluffing and push you off because you overfold and keep doing this. But when they don't like a lot of river bluffs themselves, but when they see weakness, even the nits, they pounce on it, like because they expect you to fold a lot. And the population does, right? And just learning how, all I'm saying is how the pools play and understanding how the regs play. Those leagues are what will make you money because a lot of the players are just playing a very robotic way to get those leaderboards. Because honestly, there's no point in playing those pools compared to some of the other pools, in my opinion, for that reason. But
yeah,
there you go.
I think my issue, like moving up channel 100, was a different one, and like we have seen it in the reviews we did. That I tend to be like too splashy. I will pick any excuse to 3-barrel bluff some kind of backdoor flush draw or whatever. So I'm like I'm too aggressive for this pool. So we need to push it down.
But that's the thing. It comes like I'll just say it, right. It comes down to like there's no point in saying right that was a bad theoretical bluff. If you know that your opponent like, I'll give you a real quick example, right? You play a hand, we've had a lot of these, where you play a hand and these kind of, like some of these guys make a really big overfold. They fold a flush on the river, they fold something, like a flush comes in, they fold a set, they fold like a really strong top pair, whatever, right? They fold, they show it, and then you move on. But if you identify that people are wildly overfolding really strong catches, then over bluffing a lot of these spots becomes quite profitable, just as overfolding. Like, even, I'll just say, right, a lot of the big buff catches are neutral anyway, most of them, especially in like 3-bet pot shoves. It's just to stop you. It's like the solver wants to bluff you, and then you bluff the solver, and then you trade, and then you're not beating each other. That's how it works. But if someone's bluffing every single time with every single hand, the bluff catch becomes super profitable. But then if a nit is literally blasting and shoving the river and you're calling with a good bluff catcher, it becomes wildly unprofitable. So it's like, that's why it's so important to know what, like, if you can profile the player and any information, tends to just, even if you've got a really basic foundation, but you just don't do it off and don't make massive calls. If my guy didn't make the big calls, he'd be the best in the world. It's just calling people, just going, oh, I have to call here. Good hand to call with, and they're not bluffing. Do you know what I mean? You need a really, really, really good person to be bluffing enough as they're supposed to be.
So
There's not
do
many.
you think like after working with all these people that this is the main quality that distinguishes a winning player from a losing player? Or like what do you think
I
is
mean,
the
I
most
haven't worked with.
important
I
thing?
probably worked with something like 8 people. So I haven't worked with a lot. It's more for, like I haven't worked with like, millions of people and doing all this, but it's just the people I tend to find. One or two of them, like you can tell the difference with certain people and the levels they play, and but it's really their thought process. If you could like you can. I'm quite blunt force. So if you're doing something with a reason and you're telling me what your reason is, we can go through it and that's good, whatever the reason is. But I think honestly, a lot of people like break even and lose because their mindset and their mental game are holding them back. It's nothing. So like for example, when you say like I watch a lot of better people and I try and figure out what they play, I don't think that's a bad idea. It's definitely something that's positive. But like a lot of it really is just a case of saying, look, I know this guy is like a certain player type and I've got information and I exploit him and that is going to beat you. That's going to net you the higher win rates, unfortunately, rather than just playing like a certain robotic style.
Hmm.
Because certain people just don't get a lot of money out of your pools. They're really hard to generate money from people. Trapping them and soft playing hands generally makes more money than bet for value. As weird as it sounds,
Hmm.
because it's only like quote unquote the weird people in the pool who just kind of call you with like a really bad ace. You bet
Yeah.
the flop, you overbet the turn, you shove the river, he's called you like ace four offsuit. He's like, what do you do? What's going on? That's the guy that bluff catch you. That's the guy you want to bet for value against. Whereas if you bet like 60% instead of 200% shoving the river, you make more money because it works every time. Whereas, and then when you're bluffing, you always bluff and shove, and it works every time. So it's interesting, but it's just a lot of mental work.
Mental work. Yeah. So
It's easy to say that, but yeah,
yeah.
mental work and just understanding who the players are. Honestly, it makes just
Yeah.
tremendous difference.
Yeah. I think do you think like if you start exploiting more, your variance overall should go down, right? Because you're not really like really that splashy anymore and not like betting because you have to bet or call because you have to call, although you know
I'll
that.
just give you. I'll give you. I mean, in terms of, I'll just give you an example. Right, it's a case of saying, right, it's anything under like this is probably going to sound really entitled, but like NL2 to NL10 is one stake, NL25 to NL100, maybe 25 and 50 one stake, and 100 and 200 is another stake, and then you go above. But like, it's just understanding how people play and what they do. But it's a case of saying your players, right, will do things at a certain, like always, almost always do the certain actions in the same frequencies. So you just have to try and figure out who are wildly over bluffing. Like you'll get in spots. I'll just say it right as an example. If you free bet a hand, right, I free bet any hand in any position. I miss the flop, but it's a good board for me, and I bet it, and they call, and I want to, and I'm out of position. Do I bet the turn? Do I bet the turn small? Do I bet whatever? Right? It doesn't matter your level. It's just a case of if you look at the opponent and say, right, this is the kind of guy. He's quite good. He's quite theoretical. I might have to just be a bit careful with what hands I select. Say, like you're playing NL100, there will definitely be people in there that study and do work. But the reason they're playing NL100 and not playing like high stakes is because they're playing NL100. They're not doing anything super creative or studied. They're just playing a kind of like break even, small win rate, solid way, and then just winning with a lot of rake back and leaderboard and bad beat jackpot and flip out farming, basically.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So, because we've there's not been a single person in like 30, 40 reviews I've done with this guy at 100 and 200 that's done, this is horrible, but it's true. None of them have done anything interesting at all. It's all just a case of basically they have it a lot, as blunt and basic as that sounds. And the lines they take are always the same. When they overbet the turn, which they're supposed to in a lot of spots, right?
Yeah.
They're just always bluffing. But I've never seen someone overbet the turn for value and then 3x pot shove the river as a bluff. It's so rare compared, like no one's like triple check jamming 5 times the pot. No one's shoving for it, like checking the river and shoving 1,000 times the pot.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry, 1,000%. But do you see what I'm saying, right? 10 times the pot. People don't do anything super creative. No one is betting micro on turns and rivers. No one is four betting and betting one big blind. There's so much stuff. No one 5-bet bluffs. There's nothing interesting. It's just a bunch of nits who are all right back grinding, and it's about figuring out where the money is coming from. And there's not a lot of it.
Hmm.
Beating the game doesn't net you a massive amount of money in those pools.
Hmm.
It's unfortunate. It's kind of a very. That's why I stopped the challenge in a way. We had a bit of a bad swing, but at the same time, it's like very unmotivating playing a lot of pools where you have to wildly overfold. And I'm only making money through bluffs. It's like, I just want to bet my aces for value and get called. That's all I want to do. No one calls me on the turn.
Yeah. Do you think that's
If they
like
call me, I'm dead.
Do you think it's like a specific thing about the rush pools, or is it true of the regular games as well? Also, like over multiple platforms. So I don't know how many platforms you have in the UK.
It's a hard one. So I haven't like I'm not the best person to speak to in terms of those games. So I haven't put massive volume into them. It's just a case of like I'll just use the Russian cash ones that we did.
Mhm.
Honestly, it was like NL2 to NL10. I tried to completely bulldoze the population. I couldn't do it. Couldn't bulldoze them because they were playing way too few hands. So even
Yeah.
the hands that they're folding, yeah, people still overfold, but it's just too tight. But I mean, if I was going to just say it, GG is very recreational friendly. Very recreational friendly as a site. So super high because I'm just gonna say it right. You're not you, but just in general, you're a fun player. You want to play on a site. You want to go play poker. GG Poker has got loads of players and it's fun, and they've got you might hit the bad beat, or you get collared, unlucky, you get some points back, and high rake, and you don't think about rake as a recreational player. You just think
Mhm.
about playing for fun. I just want to play this much, and that's what I'm going to do, right? Whereas in terms of regs, the regs go look at those games and think there's no beating the game it's hard, but not because the pools are tough. It's hard because the inherent rake is so high that
Mhm.
and the pools are so tight that
Mhm.
it's a case of I'm just gonna say it right. This is what I've started to learn over the last like year or so myself. It's just in terms of right, I want to play this game and make more money. I should be really in a mindset of like studying is always really really good, but looking at just where is the money. I want to play the softest games against the softest players.
Mhm.
I can crush regs, I can crush fish, but it's learning how to beat them. If I have to play a game, I'd rather not play Rush because I think there's more money playing. I'm in the UK. I can play loads of tables on regular.
Mhm.
On GG. I know certain places can't. The guy I'm working with in Germany can only do 4 tables. So regular tables are tough for him because he can't really get a lot of volume. So
Yeah.
it's not easy in that respect. But
Yeah.
if the games are good, then
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah,
Yeah. Like I'm also in Germany, so that's why I never play regular tables on stream because four tables is just too boring in a sense, and Russian Cash has more
I
action for the
yeah.
like from a content side. And I like in contrast to you where you said you're like 90% poker and 10% content, I think I'm more like 70% content and
Yeah.
30% poker.
Your
So
guys are going to want to watch you play hands really, really fast in a short period of time.
yeah.
You can get more spots. You can have more content to edit and check on YouTube. And by doing an hour or 2 hours or 5 hours of rush, then if you did a regular, I could do 2 hours doing like 8 or 10 or 12 regular tables, right? And
Yeah.
there's not really anything half interesting to show. Whereas
Yeah.
on if I did 12 tables of rush poker, for example, on any level, it's like there'll be millions of spots
Yeah.
because you're playing
Yeah.
ridiculous amounts of hands. I understand, but
I remember like I don't know, like it was a couple of weeks or months even ago. I joined your stream and you were like eight tabling Russian cash where I was like, I'm losing my mind just watching this. How do you do
yeah, it's
it?
not fun. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. It's not fun to watch. The thing I'm doing at the moment is I can't be bothered to do speed tables because I'm just sick of this mentality of like I'm almost forced because I'm not interested in leaderboard return. I'm not interested in anything at all. I'm just interested in I jump on, I play, I try and beat the pool as hard as possible, and then move on to the next one and super fast like weigh that. Like I don't think of like I'm going to do 200, 300, 400,000 hands at this stake and try and figure it out. I don't want to figure it out. I want to just literally beat people who are playing that stake and stuck at that stake and jump over them. But the problem is that the games are so tight that it's like there's so much overfolding. There's so many spots where it's like I'm turning hands into bluffs and trying to bulldoze the population. I think people know me and know that I'm doing things in a certain way as well, and that started to hurt me too. And I was getting sick of just having to overfold everything and get no value. It was really frustrating. So it's like
Hmm.
in terms of like money, anyone like watching, and I don't see a real massive reason to play speed tables compared to regular tables because you're just not making as much per hour. And the best way to make the best person in the world to beat those games will not play them strategically. They will play them purely exploitatively. There is no way to beat the highest way to beat any Zoom game from 2 to 200 will always be exploitation because the absolute best in the world, like highest solver level, are not
Hmm.
playing NL200 GG. They're not playing them. They're just they don't make money from playing other regs, but they don't care. They don't make money from rakeback. They want to go versus someone at like 100, 200 or 25, 50 or 10, 20 who's going to dump off a couple of thousands in
Hmm.
2 hours and then leave because that's where money is rather than like
Yeah.
spending 60 hours a week grinding $3,000 or $4,000
Yeah.
on 25 or 50 NL or 100 NL. And
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That would
Yeah.
just kill me doing
It's
that. I
it's
couldn't do that.
yeah. The thing is like it's just tough to get in those games, right? So when you watch, for example, I don't know, like the live cash games you have on YouTube with like Hustler Casino and the
Mhm.
Lodge Poker Room, and they're playing like 100, 200, and you feel like these guys that like they could never in a million years beat NL2, but you just don't have
Yeah.
access to those games. Yeah.
That's a private. Yeah, is that's a private. Like those hustler streams and stuff. They're private games, so
Yeah.
they're all like big. I'm not talking like I play them. I'm just saying like they're just privately made streams for like for making content and money, themselves as a job. So and then the games are just people who want to play in those games, but they're invited players. So
Yeah.
it's all constructed. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that's the thing where it's like trying to play full time and for a living and so on. I'm going to start trying to break more into live because that's where
Mhm.
the real money is. Like it just is. People want to throw. People have a lot of disposable income, and people who want to play. They don't want to play online with a bunch of nits. And again,
Yeah.
and who do you know what I mean? They want to play live, and especially, and they don't want to go in a casino because there's even more nits there. So they play all the home games and things like this. So
Yeah.
that's where a lot of money is in those games.
Yeah. I don't know
So
if you have
that's
seen
definitely something.
like the latest season of High Stakes Poker on Poker Clip.
I haven't seen it, but I think I've seen random clips.
You have to watch it. It's so funny because it's you just basically have one regular like Andrew Roble who's a pro and he's really good. Like he's been around for years and years and years. And then everyone else is either decent or like absolutely horrific. So you see him like in every episode win $1 million. It's insane.
Is that with people like Santosh and you've got
Yeah. Mhm.
I can't remember the guy, the crazy American guy who's he owns loads of casinos. I can't remember his name. The guy is always like trying to bluff everybody and show and stuff. I can't remember his name, but like him and a few
Yeah.
others, and then Keating and things. So yeah,
Yeah.
massive disposable income, big head, big ego.
Yeah.
Just go in there to play
Yeah, I
and throw
think
money
that's
around.
like the deadly combination when you have a big ego, like and you're a big business person who has like just millions and millions of dollars, and
Mm.
you just want to bluff the pro. Like I think that's the mentality.
I mean, $1 million is probably like 100 quid to him.
Probably,
So it's like
probably.
probably. So it's like yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, like
just
can
playing.
someone stake me in that game? Like I don't want to
It's
play
incredible,
against
isn't it? Yeah.
I don't want to play against Andrew Roble. I think he's really good. But the other guys, I feel like if someone just gave me like $1 million, I could do fairly well in those
Well, I
games.
mean, even like I'll be honest, like a break even, very small win rate back grinder is better than 95, 98%, maybe more of any like regular player on 1-1, 1-2, 2-5, 5-10, probably because there's just because the way the games play, whether they're soft or tight, doesn't matter. People online just because this the way the games play and the ecosystems, even if they're very tight. This is what I said to you before doesn't matter how like even if someone's not winning in the game or whatever, like people are still generally much better pre-flop. Like their
Mhm.
hand selections online because they're tighter pools, especially the rush pools. Everyone's just looking at what a rough charts are. They know roughly what GTO suggests, and then they just I know I can open X, Y, and Z under the gun. I know I'm supposed to three bet and this, and I'm not
Mhm.
supposed. Like anyone could get that pretty quickly in basic. Whereas you play live
Yeah.
and you're playing with people whether they're successful or unsuccessful, rich or not rich they're just there
Yeah.
to play cards, right? So,
Yeah.
it's about playing them and exploiting them. Whereas online, it's no matter what you do, you go play NL2, there'll be people who three bet and three bet to like 12 big blinds in the small blind and stuff. And it's like, what? People are playing, you're not supposed to know you can do that. People are, like,
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was like NL10 or something. I got like 5-bet bluff shoved or something on and got shown like ace 5 suited. I was just like, this game is broken. Game's dead.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the game evolves in the next couple of years, though,
It will
because
die quick, I think. It will, but it's already dying, in my
do you
opinion.
think
But the
so?
game will never. It can't die, but it's dying. I think in a way where it's just like the games will get to a level where I'm just going to say it right. If someone's had a lot of work pumped into them, and they have the kind of mental game, and they have the David Attenborough style understanding of how the animals in the zoo work, and you can exploit them and have a good foundation, you'll just jump over stakes because like if you're just not making mistakes and you're not doing anything too silly, you can just beat the games anyway, even at a really low level. It's just about all the super technical stuff isn't required to beat any stake in most cases. If you're playing like NL200 and there's like 80% of the pool are like winning regs, you'll get crushed. But you don't need to play. You know what I mean? If that's the case, then you wouldn't even play that game in the first place. But it's just still, in my opinion, it's just a lot of like live will never die. And like online will never technically die, but the games just become, even if it just means tighter, the games just become harder in that respect, where the average bad player or good player just kind of knows what's going on. And in order to make money, you need someone to be playing worse than you. So it's not like chess, or if you're better, you just win. You know, if the general population are all kind of like getting tougher and things, it's harder to siphon money out of the pools. So it's not always, it's not always easy.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think like this episode with you is like the most technical episode we have done here so far.
Everyone else just let's just have fun and have a beer, and you got some British guy come in and be like, let's learn Firebat Rangers.
Yeah, it's funny because usually we're just like having a laugh and having a beer and talking about shit that we do on the tables or and now it's like, okay, we have a solid technical discussion here about the state of poker in 2024.
You can't enjoy yourself in this game, you've got to learn.
So yeah, maybe to wrap it up, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your plans for the future, like the coaching stuff, the poker stuff. What do you want to do? You mentioned a bit that you want to like meet more friends in real life.
Reattach with people, reattach with small people, definitely get back in. I used to teach spin classes, man. I used to be a PT back in the day. I was all shredded up and I was teaching classes, and different world. So I could do with getting back into that person again. But dropping, I'm still working in like one of my my job I still do is I'm a carer, so I work with people like learning disabilities and so on like that. So like eventually I'll move down to bank hours, so I can just work 1 hour or 100 hours, whatever or little I want to, and then that will then be able to fuel the fire and play full-time poker live backed, and then do some online stuff whenever I want it, basically. In terms of YouTube and Twitch, I can't promise YouTube's going to have a lot more content up soon. Probably here and there, but probably not much. Twitch is a case of I'm the kind of guy that this is why I'm not good with like rate back grinding and leaderboard stuff, because I kind of want to play and just not mess about, and I don't want to sit and play X amount of hands per day or per week to hit targets. I'm not that kind of player, and that's not the way I'd want to do it either. So.
Okay, that sounds decent.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Well, Patrick, thank you for joining. For the viewers, make sure to follow Eggnoc, join his Discord, DM him if you want coaching. He knows what he's talking about. I think
God help you.
Clear. And yeah, the final word goes to you, Patrick.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.